right, so you're all welcome back to today's session. So we will be looking at the security awareness training and programs. Um, Now, most of us have been involved in one form of training or the other. And I'm sure we've also heard the phrase that people are considered the weakest link in an organization's information security. Now, when it comes to security awareness and training, it's uh, an effective security always rely on people. If you've gone through the ISACA sites and then you've gone through the manuals, you will find out that there are three pillars that you would see consistently: people, process, and technology. Those are the three pillars that any of the ISACA certifications, irrespective, either it's CISA, CISM, CDPSC, whatever it is always anchored on that. And also, if you look at within your organization, the information security practices, it's always anchored around controls around people, the process controls, and then the technology itself. So if we're using obsolete technology, we are looking at how can we upskill, how can we um, improve our technology to a recent one that is more secure, that is more scalable, and all the likes. So effective security relies on people, basically. Now, understanding is something that is key. People need to know. I've been in a situation where investigating fraud, you find out that someone shared their credentials with their colleague, and that credential was now used to perpetrate fraud. Now, ignorance is not an excuse. The fact is that when you're following the breadcrumbs, wherever it leads is where it leads. It might be that the person that you now get a hold on might not really be the person that did it, but he is complacent. All right. So people need to understand, people need to know. All right. And that's the essence of security awareness. Now, why security controls are in place, people need to know why do we have the security controls in place, how do we support these controls, what are the consequences of violating it. A lot of us have information security policies in place in our work, but I mean, people don't know that if it's violated, what is the implication? I mean, most of our policies are worded strongly. I mean, this can lead to termination, can lead to disciplinary action, but have they actually seen it enforced? All right. If you look at some banking situation, you look at you have an employee, you need to be able to tell them, okay, do not click on links in mails that are unsolicited. I mean, if you do this is what can happen. It can lead to a breach in our organization, and if this happens, we can be fined, we can lose our license. I mean, so people need to know why the controls are in place, what their part is, how do they get to support the things we have in place. Then addressing the weakest link. People are often considered weakest link in information security due to fallibility. I mean, by default, we are trusting. We can see people that shows brave face. You can boldface yourself around, but in reality, we all are sensitive. All that's required is for the sophisticated attacker to target our weak spots, our soft spots. It can be family, it can be children, it can be money, it can be anything. In fraud management, we have this fraud triangle where you say opportunity. There are three conditions that has to be met for someone to exploit your system. All right, they have to have the opportunity, they have to be under pressure, all right, and they have to be a motivation, there has to be a reason, there has to be something driving them. All right, so you can have the motivation, oh, my salary is not enough, I need to pay hospital bill, that is a motivation. But if your salary is not enough, you don't you you I mean, you need to pay hospital bill, that's a motivation. But if you don't have the opportunity, you don't have access to the platform that will enable you move funds from your organization, that your motivation dies there. All right. The rationalization can come. You say, yes, this I've been working in this company for 10 years, but they never do me any good. So why should I think about them? You can have rationalization, you can have motivation, but if the opportunity is not there, you kill the fire. So for us as information security specialists, our goal is to craft controls and design the security architecture of our organization in such a way that we make it difficult and close to impossible for one person, all right, to carry out, perpetrate a fraud or compromise our system. Now, another thing is reduced attacks. These are things that efficient and effective program can lead to a decline of information security attacks. If we design our information security very well, um, the likelihood of an attack will also reduce. And if we educate our staffs very well, they know the why, they know the how, they know the consequence, what will happen, all right, if there is a breach, the consequence on the organization and the consequence on themselves, then they would think twice before they take the next step. All right, so those are things that we craft into our security awareness training. Now, you have the aim. When you're crafting a security awareness, you're targeting, you need to have a goal, you need to have a style, you need to have a duration, you need to have a technique that you're pursuing. All right. So for security awareness, the goal is to change behaviors, to create a culture of good security practices. For example, you have this policy of what do you call it now? You do not want to leave you're not supposed to leave your system unmanned, all right? So screen lock policy, you say that no system should be left unattended, because if it's left unattended, anybody who has access to that system at that point in time inherits all the privileges that particular user has. All right, so we want to change the culture, we want to nudge people into good practice. Now the style we would adopt, you can't say, if you do this, you'll be fired immediately. You must never do this. You must never. It has to be a passive learning style. It has to come naturally. All right. The duration, you can start at the higher of the person and you do it continually. So today, at least, I believe it hasn't changed, at least in the banking sector. When you get hired, before now, it used to be longer. You take like 3 months or even 1 month going to training school, especially for new entrants, not experienced hire though. They'll take you through all the departments, take you through all the way of working, take you through what the expectation is. They have a personification of who a UBA employee is, the way he or she dress, and the color of his tie, the color of his socks, the color of this, the brand image. All right. So when it comes to awareness for your staff, we do a lot of awareness when it comes to our product, our brand. We also need to incorporate awareness in security. So part of that onboarding process should involve training people on what you want them to know about security. All right, how should they relate with security? How should they behave under certain atmospheric conditions, standard temperature and pressure, as the scientists might put it? All right, so it has to start from the point of hire and it has to continue regularly. All right, and the techniques should vary to prevent staleness and boredom. I recall when what do you call it now? This social engineering fraud became very rampant against our customers. We had to put out newsletters regularly. And even though we are saying the same thing, we are saying it in different ways. We are showing a max person with an ATM. We are showing somebody trying to break something. We are telling a different story per time, but with the same objective of educating our customers on how to handle their sensitive information. And we keep reiterating the bank will never ask for A, B, C, D, E. All right. Now, that's your security awareness. When it comes to security training, now, this particular type of training is different from security awareness. For awareness, it's easy life, right? Often passive. There is no mandatory thing. It's just okay. This is who we are. This is how we work. This is how you should do it. All right. But when it comes to security training, you are teaching these employees the relevant skills to perform their job securely. All right. And most time when it comes to security training, it's not for everybody. It's majorly for people in the security field. I mean, IS audit field. People who will be handling the security matters on a daily basis. All right. So you're teaching them relevant skills that is required to perform their jobs. Now and most times it's in a formal environment. I recall while I was managing the fraud team at some point, I went to InterSwitch for a particular fraud training. All right. It was an intensive training, but it was on the job training. It was a training on security that relates to my work. And so that's a security training. All right. Now, the focus of security training most times is you need to build knowledge, build skills, build competencies in specific areas. So for me, that particular training, I learned how to use what they call it Scorebridge, is the fraud solution from InterSwitch that year for cards. I understood the ISO messaging for card system. I understood how which position the pan is, which position different data is on the ISO messaging. All right, so I can go to what do you call it now, the card transaction system, and read the ISO message, know what I'm looking for, know rules, design rules on how to block certain types of potential fraudulent transaction. Those were trainings that are, how will I put it now, targeted, all right, to building specific skills in specific areas. In this case, some security skills. Now, an example would be like an IS auditor course for security administrators covering implementation of controls. So someone in IS audit, you're going for this training, or you're going for training on securing how to secure a database. You're not a database administrator, but you need to have that knowledge of how to secure a database so that when you're doing an audit of a database, you can check if the security controls that you've learned are in place. All right. Now, then you also now have security education. This is even more intensive in intensity. The target are, I mean, security professionals with deep expertise. And the purpose is for those that are seeking careers in information security. So, for example, when CEH came to Nigeria some years ago, I actually went for the training. I mean, and I paid out of my pocket. I met people from First Bank and some other banks that the banks paid for them. But for me, I paid out of my pocket because it was something I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn ethical hacking. I wanted to learn how things work and how to see how to break and all of that. All right. But it was a more intensive training. And in some cases here, it could be that you're doing your master's in information security or ethical hacking and the like. So you find out that some of these courses, you get them from colleges, universities, or specialized programs. And basically, they integrate various security skills for different body of knowledge, right? So there's a difference between security awareness, security training, security education. Security awareness is mostly what you give to almost everybody in your organization, right? But when it comes to security training, it's majorly for the practitioners, those that are working with it daily, you give it to. And for the security education, it's taking it much higher. So somebody is saying, I want to go for my master's in information security. I want to write the CISSP certification. All right. I want to write the ISACA certification. This is a deep education process because, I mean, it's going beyond the 30 or 10 minutes meeting or video that you do for awareness, or going beyond maybe a one day training. that you do for security training. All right. I mean, you guys, even for this course alone, you've paid, and it's estimated to take you 10 weeks. All right, for us to go through the basics, and then it's not just what the teacher teaches. You still have to dedicate several hours in your day to be able to prepare on your own and then go for the exam. All right. So these are the different categories. So you have your awareness, your training, your education. Their knowledge levels are different. The objectives are different. Typical methods of administrations are also different. And the time frames are also different. All right. The testing methodologies are also different. But the major thing is that they are different. And we've also showcased that in the previous slides. Now, some of the benefits that we get from security awareness training and education program is one, we support individual accountability. I just resumed in my new place of work. I call it my new place of work. I've worked there before, but as a consultant, but now as an employee directly. But the difference is now, even as an employee, I need to um, build a career path, a career plan, a training plan. So I'm working with my manager to build a training plan. So what it helps is it helps with individual accountability. So your manager can say, okay, yes, this is what we agreed on. How far? Where are we? These are the things that goes into your KPIs and then affects either you get promoted or not, if you get what you call profit sharing or not, and the likes. So when you have a proper security awareness training, you you can actually check for where are people along the way. Now, in my organization, we have a portal where you track your personal information security level as an employee, because on a monthly basis they keep pushing phishing mails. You're supposed to also practice on how to send encrypted messages. I mean, to ensure that you can send confidential information the right way. You do not unintentionally or intentionally disclose sensitive information and the likes. And for every of those activities you do, you get a point. All right, that's how my organization has built the security awareness training program. But a lot of organizations, we have training programs for employees. But the question is, does the organization have a security awareness training and education program? Do people know how to do things, why they need to do what they are told to do, what policies exist, what is expected of them, why should they even do it in the first place? So those are questions that needs to be answered. All right. So it supports individual accountability. It also serves as a preventive control. All right. So when you encourage employees to maintain best practice, um, if the employee adheres to what has been said, the risk that should have crystallized are prevented. All right. And again, this security awareness training also serves as a detective control. All right. And I need to emphasize here a bit, because in your exam, you would encounter questions that you need to think, is this a preventive control or is it a detective control? All right. And preventive controls are always preferred, all right, over detective control. So if a control is detective in nature, it's lower ranked than a preventive control. So you always want a preventive control, but if it's not possible, then you settle for the detective. All right. So you find in this situation where security awareness can both be preventive and detective. Now, detective in the sense that employee can identify and report some security violation if they are trained, because they know what to look out for, they know how things should be and what should be in place. So if you look at the example of maybe a food or beverage company, the employee is trained to recognize unusual access attempts to the recipe database. They can quickly report them, acting as a crucial first line of defense against intellectual property theft. So, I mean, irrespective of your industry, just think about it. what your employees would save you, there is no technology that can save you that much. All right. So I mean, if they are trained to know that when you start seeing, you've watched some movies and you see that some people, they send them a message. The moment they click on it, their system starts showing black and white and doing all sorts of things. And before you know it, it shuts down, restarts, and it seems as if everything is back. But if you've trained your employees to know that when you start seeing strange activities on your corporate or your office laptops or your office devices, report to your information security team immediately. That will just be the only saving grace that will prevent, an attack like a ransomware attack from spreading from one person to every other person within your network. Okay, so your training of your employees can actually serve as a detective control. Now it also helps lower the security risk. The more security aware your employee are, the more likely they will detect security breach and even prevent security breach. So it reduces those inherent risks of information systems that cannot be addressed solely by technical solutions. A lot of organizations, we depend heavily on technical solutions. We want to do everything, but really it doesn't work. All right. All right. There's a limit to what technical solutions will do. There's this thing that you also need to have at the back of your mind. You're always as good as the person who configured your security solution. If the person that configures your security solution is not the best in the field, then you only get what he knows. What he does not know, he cannot implement. All right. So that's why the people factor is always important. And we still go back to the people, process, technology. Those three have to work hand in hand. If you have your people secured, you've trained them, their minds are alert, they're able to identify red flags. That's one major security defense you've built in your organization. When you have processes that makes it difficult for one person to perpetrate fraud or for one person to start and finish a process, a financial process or any sensitive process, you've also, built another layer of defense on your system. And then when you now have the technology, the logical controls and everything built around it, you also put another layer. So if any of those layers fail, if the technology fails, your people would not fail. If the process fail, one of your persons or even your technology will pick up where a process has failed, and then you flag it. You're able to avert what could have gone wrong. Okay, so these are some of the benefits of a security awareness training um, program. Now, you have programs that can be tailored. For larger organizations, they may need special management level training on information security awareness. Then you can have also universal requirements, which is to all employees, and it's really, to your third parties, your vendor, general knowledge, majorly. That's what you have under your universal requirements. All right. And you have different ways of raising this awareness. It can be computer-based program. I don't know if you guys have heard of these term gamify. And that's what happens now. For example, I'm trying to learn a new language, and one of the tools is this Duolingo. It makes learning language fun. Not only learning language, it also has music part of it because I love music. So it makes, anything you want to learn, either maths, music, language, it makes it fun because it's like you're playing game. And when you, for everything every new thing you learn, you earn a point. You keep a streak. You can say I've been consistent for the past 300 days. I've been consistent for the past 1,000 days. So it helps you just maintain that interest. Before the class started, I started playing this game. What do you call it now? Bubble something something. And before you know it, I've spent 5 minutes. I've spent 10 minutes. I've spent 15 minutes. I've spent 20 minutes. I'm like, class is supposed class is supposed to start very soon. What am I doing? And that's the attraction of games. All right. So I mean, whatever it takes, we need to make sure that we are pushing out that information out there. I mean, that awareness has to be out there. It could be computer-based programs, it could be your e-learning, it could be web-based trainings, it could be your written security policies, procedures, updates. I mean, the truth is, the things we write, it's difficult. Most people don't go to read it. Even for those who wrote those policies, they find it difficult to go back to review it. And that's why audit is there. Because part of your audit job, when you're auditing a process or a section of business, you go from the known to the unknown. And part of the known are the governing policies, the procedures in place. And then you're judging against those policies and procedures and then benchmarking against best practice in case the policies that they have, I mean, it has become obsolete because nobody has gone back to review it. You can then recommend for changes and updates even in those policies and procedures and the likes. All right. So one of the other things you also do is ensure that all your employees have these NDAs so they know that you take sensitive information serious and they'll be held liable if for any reasons they get to divulge any sensitive information. We also talk about using different media, newsletter, web pages, posters, log on reminders. I mean, when you want to log on to your system today in the office, when you do your control delete or you just start and you put your ID, one of the things that it pops up your security notification saying that this system belongs to the organization XYZ and that you should not do anything unofficial, that your this system is currently being monitored. I mean, they put all those things there to let you know that you are responsible for the actions that happen on this device that you're logging onto. All right. Then you also see another way to raise the level of awareness is visible enforcement of the security rules. I mean, if you've known somebody who has gone to disciplinary committee and went for 1 month without pay, you would not you would not repeat the same offense the person has done because you know that your organization takes it serious. But when people flout the policies, flout the rules, and they go scot-free, I mean, every other person feels that, man, if I mean SN was able to go through it and nothing happened. So nothing, I mean, they are not serious. Nothing will happen. I can copy sensitive information and nothing will happen. I know how to bypass the rules, and even if they catch me, I'll say it was done unintentionally or something. So people need to know that you enforce these security rules. Then you also need to simulate security incidents for improving your security. So like what I said, we have a personal information security dashboard for each employee in my organization. And every month they send out phishing mails and try to trick you to click on things. All right. And this I'm even saying right now is my first week or so in the organization. There's a particular application I've never used before, but I noticed my team uses it. So I got a mail from one of the phishing mails, but it looked very realistic. I didn't know. And because it was one of the new application I just saw that we are using, I clicked on it. And it stripped me of marks. So I was in the negative. I was very angry with myself. I was like, I train I train people on not clicking on these things. I tell people on what to look out for when you receive mails. I tell people to be patient when they are. I conduct this awareness training and I've done it for several years. All right, so falling for it was like an insult to me, and it also showed that I'm actually still human because you're new to a place, you're trying to figure out things, and all of a sudden you get this. So, but after that, it will never happen again that I'm going to click on anything because I'm already aware and I've already learned my lesson, and I know that okay, these are the things I'm supposed to always do. Don't just rush to respond to mails. Don't just try to. When you just come in, you want to impress your manager. You want to be sure that you don't get things that you now be saying I did not see that mail and all of that. But those are the things that we need to be testing in our organization when people join, or when for existing staff, you see that I mean, you're supposed to be able to respond to mail at all times, right? So they send you a mail during off work hours. I mean, the normal thing is someone who is willing to do the job wants to quickly respond. But you, as someone who is educated now, you want to be patient. You want to click on the hover your mouse on the name. You want to see what email is this mail coming from. Who is this person? What is he asking for? And if you suspect that is a phishing mail, you report it. You can report even a genuine mail. If it's not a phishing mail, they'll tell you, oh, sorry, don't worry, this mail is not phishing, so it's okay, you can view it. It's better to be more cautious than just allow things fly the way they are. So another thing is we need to put a reward mechanism in place. All right, periodic review of job descriptions, performance review. These are just to mention a few. There are other things that we should consider for successful security awareness training programs, like developing security culture, integrating your information security policy, ensuring that the policy elements of security awareness training education provide an organizational direction. And there's nothing like having the voice at the top re-echoing what the message you're trying to pass across. All right, when it's done that way, even those at the lower cadre know that if the MD is using two-factor authentication, who am I to say I'm not going to use it? And I recall when CBN put that policy that organizations should ensure their devices are 2FA compliant. That means even to log into your laptop or your desktop, you need both your username, password, and a token. For us, the MD also and the executive bought into it. So it was not possible for one manager or head of department to say that my work is too busy, I cannot be using token. If your MD is using it, so who are you? All right. So we need to be able to integrate our security policies. We need to be able to define roles and responsibility. People should know what they are responsible for. We should have a way to monitor and review. For me, in my organization, I mentioned that when I clicked on the phishing mail, I marks were deducted from my profile. All right. So, and every time I submit a successful phishing mail, I get points. So the marks that were deducted from my profile, I have recovered them back. But the idea is there is a way of monitoring and reviewing. So that monitoring and reviewing puts everybody on their toes. Every of your employee is aware, okay, this is what is happening, this is how I should behave. They are checking it. It contributes to my appraisal review at the end of the year. So somehow, if you're monitoring and reviewing it, it becomes a culture within the organization. Then also another, thing that contributes to a successful security awareness is you focus on the entire organization. Don't just, I've seen cases where some parts of the organization don't even know that an information security policy exists. And that is because our campaign or our, awareness programs have been focused on just the security persons. And those are the people that are less likely even to fall for these cheap tricks. The people that can easily fall, we don't train them. So we need to ensure that our focus is on the whole organization. Remember, we've distinguished between awareness, training, and education. All right. We know that training is for the professionals, security guys. That's one they need. But when it comes to awareness, awareness should go to everybody. All right. And then when you want to now talk about the education, someone who is deciding to go all out himself or through the organization into delving deeper into a particular subject matter. I've talked about the tone at the top. If your senior leadership sets a good example, everybody follows. No other person will be able to say they are not going to do. Saying they are not going to do it doesn't exist. All right. Then simple communications. It doesn't have to be complex. It could just be a cartoon. It could just be a one pager. The awareness programs we did then, they are majorly just one pager. And more of pictures, less of words. You're telling a story. You're trying to build a culture. And if you recall in the previous slide, we said when it comes to awareness, it's a passive it's a passive way of learning. We are nudging them gradually, even without them knowing. They are watching these cartoons, they are watching these short videos, they are watching this story about this person that was defrauded, and it was due to the negligence of one person or the other person. Or we're doing a review of lessons learned of the previous incidents within the organization, sharing it with the whole organization, saying this is things that we've learned and what, I mean, should not be done. And you see that somebody lost his job just because they they shared their password with somebody. I mean, you wouldn't want to do it again. So we are not saying that don't share your password with somebody. We are saying this is what happens to someone that share their passwords. We are not saying that don't do this or don't do that, but you're passively, I mean, the message is being passed across, okay? So the penalties for non-compliance has to be there. I mean, it has to be policy centric, and the rollout plan, you need to deploy a rollout plan or strategy after a needs assessment. So first of all, you need to be able to identify what are the needs. All right. So when you're conducting a need assessment, you would normally want to define what's the purpose, determine an organization awareness and training needs. I mean, why do we want to do this? What do we need? All right. Then what's the justification? Provide justification to executive management to prioritize and allocate resources, time, money for this program. Then inclusivity, everyone's needs should be considered and all key personnel should be involved. I mean, a lot of times we have programs that just focus, as I said, on some aspects, maybe some IT staff, some control staff, some audit staff. But the real people that interact with our customers, the real people who use this application that can be compromised, they don't even know what kind of controls they are responsible for. Talk less of what they should be able, what they should do and what they shouldn't do. All right. So when we're designing our awareness and training program or needs, we need to consider every key stakeholder. Okay. We talked about roles and responsibilities as part of conditions for successful security awareness. So just quickly look at, you have different roles. You have executive management. Their needs are majorly high level understanding information. They are not interested in the deep dive. Your information security personnel, they are the more they have more technical needs, all right? They are interested in the technical aspect of information security, the policies, the best practices. The owners, most times, I mean, we would get to it. I'm not sure I've discussed that with you yet. And when we talk about data owners, I've said that IT are never most times the data owner. They are most times custodians, because the data owners are business people. All right. So that's why their security needs are general in nature. All right. High level understanding of information security policies and applicable controls. They don't delve deep into this thing. So you look at the example of the head of sales in an insurance company. All right, as the owner of a CRM or customer relation management system, all he needs to know is, okay, he just needs to understand the policies on the data access, client privacy, but not necessarily underlining technical configurations, how they get to do it. That will be more of interest to your information security personnel. Then you have your system administrator, high degree of technical information security knowledge required. And the operations staffs, they just need a high degree of security awareness and training on controls and acceptable behaviors. So the level of information that is required, it depends on the roles and responsibilities of each person. So I mean, even though we said that we should train everybody, it has to be tailored also to their specific roles and their needs. Um, Sources of information in building our awareness program. You talk about interview key persons, take organizational survey, review assessments. I mean, one of the things, like, I mean, while out in the bank, the assessments we do, they ask for your training needs. That can be a source from all those surveys. What are the training needs that people from this unit or this department, what have they been asking for? All right, then we'll make a justification to management. A lot of times it's difficult to get the funds out, I know, but that should not deter us. We need to find a way around it and make a strong justification for these things. Your metrics analysis related to awareness, training, education, percentage of users trained on social engineering, percentage of users that click on phishing mails. I mean, the more you see these things happen, it means that people really don't know. So that means there is a gap there that needs to be filled. So you need to train people on that. So taking, I mean, we talked about one of the keys to success in this field as monitoring and measuring, I mean, progress. So if you are not measuring these things, there's no way you will get any metrics. An information security plan reviews. I mean, it's good we have a plan, but it should be something that will be reviewed from time to time to make sure it is still relevant. I mean, you need to be able to appoint individuals and their security roles. So we need to review this plan. Then security access database review is something else. We want to be able to determine the individual access levels, the oversight body findings, discussions. These are places where you get insights on things that people need. All right. Then how do we go about implementing an awareness and training program? First, we need to define the program scope, what's our goal, what's our objectives, what are our strategies, and which employee group are we going to be covering. All right, we need to be able to select training staff, both internal, external, combination of both, whichever way. So if we have the knowledge in house, it's something good. There's one thing we did in one of the banks I worked. I think every Thursday we have train the trainer sessions. I mean, knowledge sharing in the morning just before work. I think for 30 minutes or 1 hour, someone within the team would train on particular topics. All right, and that way we are passing the knowledge around. And for me, one of the things I did for my team is I made sure everybody got involved. So you don't have the excuse of I'm not into public speaking, I don't know this, I don't know that, because the person who trains learns twice more than the person who is hearing. So like I'm taking you guys on this course now. I mean, I've trained this particular module for more than 10 years. So some of the things I'm telling you, I've been hearing it over 10 years. And for some of you, you might be hearing for the first time or the second time or even the third time. So for me, it would come more naturally than someone who is just hearing for the first time. So we encourage people to get into the training routine and being able to share their knowledge, share what they've learned. That way, they embody the concept and the security practice that we're trying to promote within the organization. Then we need to be able to identify target audience, motivate management and trainees, such as secure support, commitment, demonstrate the benefits. And when it comes to demonstrating benefits, especially when it comes to the bank or to management, right? That metrics we talked about in the last slide is very important. Being able to know how many of our staffs, the percentage of staffs have been clicking on phishing mails continuously, how many of our staffs have been trained on information security at all. All right. How many of our staffs have gone for, how many of our information security staff now has gone for information security specific training in the past 5 years? So when you have all those numbers don't lie, and it reflects on the quality of work they do. So if you've not been training your staff, you feel that you are saving money. I mean, it's penny wise, pound foolish, because what the person knows is what he has known maybe since he left school. And if it's someone that does not really invest in his own personal education, most likely your systems are as old as his mind. Remember, I said every solution or technical solution you have is as good as the person who implements it. So if the person who is implementing your technical solutions, your administrators, your information security professionals, are not abreast of what is happening in the world right now, then you are in trouble as an organization. All right, so we need to be able to motivate management and trainees. We need to be able to administer the program efficiently and effectively. We need to be able to maintain the program. All right, I mean, it's one thing to start, it's another thing to keep it up. Then we need to be able to evaluate the program, assess its effectiveness, what's the return on investment. Um, it's hard to quantify, but if you recall, when you're motivating management for the the budget and all of that, we would have likely presented some numbers like the percentage of the whole staff that has been trained in the past 2 years on information security awareness. If it's like 1%, by the time after a year you're assessing it and it has gone to maybe 10 or 20%, you can say that there has been a dramatic jump from the numbers we had before and after we've done the training. And the goal is to get to the point where we have at minimum 90% per time. And that's because we are looking at the fact that over every year we would have recycling of staffs. People would leave, new people will come. So there will always be that gap, at least a 1% or 5% that has not been trained yet. So, I mean, those are your, I mean, your ROIs, those are your KPIs that you can use to defend whatever you're doing. Now, for you as an auditor, all right, when you want to now evaluate these training and awareness programs, I mean, one of the challenges you would have is actually difficult to measure effectiveness or the return on investment, all right, because it's not coming back monetarily. They are perceived benefits, all right? But you would actually see it in the quality of work that's being done. So we need to be aware that this challenge is there. I mean, measuring the effectiveness might be very difficult. But one of the things you can actually do, or some of the evaluation methods you can do, is um, can you do observation? I mean, take a questionnaire for feedback. So you say that for every training, make sure that you circulate feedback. Let's get the feedback from the audience. And that's why for me, when I'm taking classes and I try to ask questions, I intend to have feedback because that way I'm able to know, am I really hitting the nail on the head or is there something that is missing somewhere? Okay. So, I mean, taking that evaluation and that questionnaire feedback helps us to know if the training is effective, if we need to tweak it. And that comes to your maintaining your awareness program. I mean, it's not cast in stone. It's something that should be, I mean, evolving as things move on. All right. So your student evaluation is one way of doing the evaluation. Observations of employees following the security procedures. Now, you'll be surprised. A lot of people don't know that all that you need to do is just Windows L to lock your screen. All right, when going out, you don't need to be clicking. But if you've just sent a one page mail to all staff and say, in order to ease your ability to comply with the lock screen policy, uh, whenever you're leaving your system, just press. It can be as easy as pressing Windows L. Within that short period after the mail or the whatever medium of communication you use has gone out, you can actually sit back and observe. You'll find out that a lot of your staff start practicing. Oh, Windows L. I never knew Windows L. So you now find out that I mean, before when you are walking around, you'll be seeing screens open without people. Now find out when you walk around, you hardly see screens without people. Or if you see a screen, the person is actually standing by it or something. So, I mean, by observation, you can actually say if, I mean, the security awareness campaign is working or not. Now, another one is testing and examination. All right. You hardly do this for awareness, but for trainings, most times you take tests. I mean, and for education, that one is even mandatory. You write the exams, right? So, testing and examination on the material covered is very important. Um, and I see this happen in some of the trainings I take even at work. Even for trainings as short as maybe 30 minutes, they just want to test, okay, what can you remember from what we've just learned? All right, what does this mean? What does that mean? And that way it helps the students to engage with the material or recollect what he or she has learned and is able to um, now put it in practice in real life in their day-to-day job. Now, another thing of measuring or evaluating the effectiveness of our awareness program would also be what we call incident monitoring. All right. So you compare the incidents we had before and after the training. Remember, I said one of the metrics we can use is the number of staffs that click on phishing mails, um, the percentage of staffs that clicks on phishing mails for the past 1 year. If the percentage was maybe um, 20% before, then after we've done training and campaigns and all of that, it reduced to 5%. You can actually say, yes, the awareness program is working, right? So your incident monitoring can actually help to evaluate if our awareness program is working. Then focus groups. I mean, trainee discuss program effectiveness and improvement. So you just call it a set of people together. I mean, to just say, okay, you've gone through this program. What do you think about it? What can we do? All right. These are things that we can put in place to ensure that we get proper feedback that we feed into the program and make it better and improve it. And over time, we are able to tailor our security awareness and training program to our own peculiar organization and needs. Now, I needed to mention that because a lot of times the people who you would employ are coming from a different organization, different culture, different background, different mindset. And as such, the program or security awareness program in Bank A will not necessarily work in Bank B. I mean, I work in the automotive now, and I see people when they come in, especially maybe from another automotive company, and they are doing gra. I think you should just relax, all right? That what you are trying to do in this environment, it will not work because the culture here is different from where you're coming from. So you need to first sit down and learn what's the culture in the organization where I am now. And you now think, so how can this initiative work best in this organization? But if you just come saying this is how we used to do it in my former company, so let's do it that way to work. I mean, that one is just you're wasting time. So you need to understand the environment where you are to make sure that the security awareness program and training that needs to be in place are tailored to their own needs, tailored to their needs, tailored to their needs. Okay. Any questions so far on security programs? Any question?
None from my end.
Okay, thanks, Lamide. Thanks, Lamide. All right, so we'll move on to information system attack methods and techniques. This I need to take as early as possible within the course because it will reoccur not just in this module but in several other modules. So and in the exam it's scattered everywhere. So it's always good that you understand it. All right. So, I mean, if you understand it properly, it makes it easy for you to answer your questions. And beyond just the answering of questions, it also makes it easy for you to be able to spot things that are working and things that are not working within your organization. And again, one thing I need to put out here is attacks are not just technical exploits always. All right. They have significant business ramifications. So when an organization is under attack, it might seem as if it's just the server that will go down. But when the server is going down, your your earning capability also goes down with it. It has huge financial implications, especially if the server that was hit is a critical application server or database. Now, so if you think about a banking institution facing a data breach leading to loss of customer trust, regulatory fines, all right, or you look at maybe a food and beverage company that is suffering from a ransomware attack, all right, disrupting the supply chain, halting production, causing immense financial losses and reputational damage. You find out that the attack might seem simple, or I mean it's just an attack on a particular thing, but the domino effect is actually huge. I recall I think for twice in my career, while I was in Stanbic, there was a particular case where it was called, one of our patching server was affected, and it affected a lot of systems. So we had to manually restore all those systems back. And in those years, I mean, we have regional um, copies of this server. So they had to ship them from the different regions to the head office, because I used to be in IT support at my early days. And then we had to restore those servers. And that's just one example. It wasn't a critical business application server, but the implication was that every other systems that depended on it for compliance purpose, to ensure that you have all the necessary patch, that you are secured and all of that, when we affected that period. So I mean, it cost a lot of money, because you have to pay consultants to support you. You have to reach out to Microsoft, and I mean, there are a whole lot of stuff involved. Another one that comes to mind is where we had, what do you call it now, a ransomware attack. When ransomware became a popular thing in banks. I mean, when things happen, we always tell ourselves in the bank that what comes around goes around, or what goes around comes around. I mean, something like that. So what comes around goes around. So I mean, the idea is, help me when I'm down right now, because I mean, you don't know, your turn might be your turn might be tomorrow. It's turn by turn. So especially when it comes to fraud, and when it comes to security breaches and attacks. Most times, what happens is an attacker hits one bank or hits one financial institution, and the same exploit that happened in bank A is in the same vulnerability in bank A is in bank B, C, and D. But because we don't talk to ourselves, everybody is forming superstar. We are the most secure. We are the big, strong, reliable. I mean, we we don't talk to ourselves. So the guys will just be eating from bank to bank. I mean, those are the frustrating things there. All right. So an attack is not just an attack; it has business ramification. When we look at fraud, it's defined as a crime of using dishonest method to take something valuable from someone, or a person, or an organization. I discussed the fraud triangle when we're talking about the customer awareness. I said it has three legs: your motivation, rationalization, and opportunity. So the fraud triangle basically is just a widely accepted concept of understanding why people act the way they do. All right. And it has three legs. So for us as an IS auditor, we need to understand this. So when you talk about motivation, you're looking at a perceived financial or other personal need. So like someone who is in debt, who has a personal grudge, someone who is addicted to cocaine or hard drug, someone who has a desire for status symbol. I mean, I managed the fraud team for some years, and one of the things we always looked at is, if any of my guys are begin to live beyond their means, or I see somebody that before the end of month is already borrowing money from his colleagues, I am concerned. I reach out to them to find out what is happening, because it's just a sign. I mean, if you worked within my team, you have access to card information of customers. You have access to a lot of sensitive information by virtue of that role. So you can't afford to be someone who lives life anyhow. All right. So we need to be able to check, what's the motivation. Is this person heavily in debt? And for those of us working, I mean, if your organization have this opportunity to give you loan, there is always this ratio. Your earning to your debt profile should not be more than 30% or something. I can't remember the percentage, but there is a threshold that's been defined. And the essence is, we want to be sure that you don't now have heavily in debt and now get motivated to steal. Now, beyond motivation, another thing is rationalization. You can be motivated, but if you have conscience, all right, it could be called your church mind or your mosque mind or your Ifa mind, whatever mind it is. It would prick you and you say, oh, no, 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 no. I've been in this bank for too long. I've been in this company for too long. I can't mess up my career because of 5 million, right? But that's someone who has a conscience. But at some point, if the pressure is much and that motivation is there, I mean, you need money for drugs, your wife is pregnant, you need to, she has to be admitted, and there's nowhere, no family member to call, whatever it is. Then the rationalization comes in. You're saying, ah, I deserve the money. I was only borrowing it. I mean, I've seen people in the branch, tellers. You see tellers that are living beyond their means. You see someone who his salary is not up to 50,000 a month, driving Lexus Jeep, and you both park in the same car park. You will be manager for 5 years. You don't even have that car. You are praying that they will promote you to senior manager so that you get your status car, and your status car might even be up to what they are already driving. So those are the things you see that they rationalize it. I've been with this bank for 10 years. What have I gotten? I've not been promoted more than once in 10 years. Which year will it become my turn? Then the opportunity. All right. That's where you have the proper authorization, you're in the right position, you're in the right place, right time, standard temperature and pressure in place. So the method by which the crime is committed often created by weakness like abuse of position or authority, poor internal controls, poor management oversight, and the likes. So those are the opportunities. So for us as an IS auditor, that opportunity leg is what we need to cut. All right. We need to make sure that we have proper controls. Technical controls are in place. Process controls are in place. All right. But if we are not even aware of these three legs, motivation, rationalization, opportunity, how do we even know if we have proper controls in different aspects of our businesses? So for us in IS audit or IS control, that is our work. Identifying the gaps within our systems and making sure we close them. I mean, I didn't envy the guy that was the lead for systems control while I was in the bank then, because he always had to go to DC to explain why a user profile was not deactivated after they left, or why a user has more rights than he should and did some transactions he shouldn't have done. All right, these are gaps that could have been prevented if we put processes in place to review these things regularly. All right, so that's one. Then mitigating opportunity to commit fraud can be limited by effective security controls, such as you have your logical access controls, segregation of duties, that is, no one person can start and finish your process. Then you also have your human resource security. I mean, doing your due diligence before you onboard anybody. That is the first place. I mean, a lot of us have onboarded fraudsters without knowing. I mean, we onboarded the devil and think he's an angel. But if we did our extended due diligence, and I think again, just to put it out there, human resource guys are doing a fantastic job, but you can't spend the same amount in screening different people. I mean, the higher the responsibility, the higher the due diligence that needs to be done. All right, that's understandable, but they need to be aware that due diligence is required. Um, I don't know. Do we have questions so far?
No questions from me.
Okay. But has any of us witnessed any of these situation in our offices where someone abuses the privilege they have and exploits the system just because nobody is looking at that opportunity leg?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. All right then. Thanks. So the idea is this: the essence of the plenty stories is so that we have something that we can hold on to, especially when we're in the exam hall, something that our minds can grab. Beyond just reading the text, that's why the lectures are important. You get to hear my voice. I know my voice is not the most sonorous voice you've ever heard. Please enjoy my voice and try to remember my voice in the exam. And then the stories also goes a long way because you remember stories more than text. So that's why I asked if you have such stories. So when you're in the exam hall, if you can remember the story I've given, try to recollect the story that you have witnessed. In my previous classes, I encourage people to share, but not anything sensitive. So if peradventure you feel that there are things your colleagues would benefit from, please feel free to share as long as you are not breaching any rules from your organization. That's it. So how are computers used in crime? So I mean today, I mean you can say computers, but a lot of things that computers can do, you can do it on your mobile phone. Today, I think my mobile phone has 12 gig of RAM, and some laptops don't even have up to that. And even with my 12 gig of RAM, I feel that it's still not enough. It's just that right now to move higher would require more money, and I'm not ready to spend that spend that money yet. All right. So what we're saying here is that how can we use computers or any of our gadgets to commit crime? Basically, it can be used to obtain money, goods, softwares, enterprise information, manipulate applications, steal equipment. I mean, a lot of things can be done just at the click of a mouse and the keyboard. And the impact to our organizations are majorly in the reputational, the moral, then it threatens our continued existence. It threatens our going concern. All right, because I mean, if you get, I don't know, there is this company. I had it in the back of my mind, but it has just gone. Let me just look at. There's this example of in an insurance bank where you have a disclosure of a confidential customer information, such as their health records, policy details. This actually can lead to massive lawsuits, regulatory fines. GDPR for Nigeria is NDPR. It could have HIPAA fines or even a complete loss of public trust. In the public, and this could be, it could have legal repercussion and even severe credibility loss. Now, there is this particular dating site in the US. I can't remember the name that there was a data breach and it was high rollers. I mean, you pay heavily to even join that particular club. Now, I'm not promoting what do you call it now, infidelity for those of us that are not married, but the idea is just to, I mean, use it as an example of how a breach can actually end the life of a business. Okay, so for that particular business, it never survived it because the people who were affected were heavy lifters. I mean, people of wealth and caliber, if you want to put it that way, in the in the society, and all their dirty linen were just spread out in the public. It affected them, and some of them took personal, I mean, sued the company personally, and I mean, the company never survived it. All right, so it's better not to face an attack than face an attack and try to recover from it. All right, because it could be something that we might not be able to recover from. Now, some specific business threats that we have is it could actually lead, even if it doesn't lead to a discontinuation of our business, it could lead to huge financial losses. Um, I've learned, not just learned. Facebook, you use Facebook as an example. They've been sued and fined heavily in the EU, I mean, in recent years over how they handle um, the personal data of the persons within the EU region, right? Heavy financial loss. And this This one has nothing to even do with maybe there was a breach. I know at some point Yahoo was breached, and after that they tightened their security. Today, before you can break into Yahoo, I mean, you have to do a whole lot of work. All right. Then you also have legal repercussions, loss of credibility, blackmail, espionage, I mean, organized crime. These are some of the specific business threats we have. Sabotage. And you have hacktivism, I mean, non-violent use of illegal or ambitious digital tools for political ends. So you have these war happening within Palestine, between Palestine and Israel. Now it's extended to Israel, Iran, and the likes. Now you have people who are even attacking Israel-owned companies, hacking them, trying to deface them as a way of showing solidarity with Palestine. All right. So these are types of business threats that we see that organizations are likely to face. We have different computer crime issues and exposures. I mean, we have different types of attackers. All right. We have an hacker who is basically an individual who attempts to gain unauthorized access, typically just to challenge himself or stimulate his curiosity. I mean, he doesn't have anything evil in mind, but I mean, he will only take a step before he becomes what you will call a black hat hacker. All right. So hackers are people who are curious. They are interested in learning. You can either be a white hat or a black hat or a gray hat. A gray hat is even more dangerous because he plays both sides. He plays for both the good guys and the bad guys. All right. Then you have your crackers. I mean, these people are individuals who attempt to maliciously break into system, often for illegal intent. Often for illegal intent. And you have the script kiddies. Um, Someone who uses what others have created. I mean, they don't know how it works. They don't know the technology behind it. They don't know the science behind it. They don't know that if I run this script, it will cause denial of service. They don't know if it's an ICMP based attack or sync attack. They really don't care. They just want to disrupt things. They lack the skills to create their own things. Then the the worst type of attacker you can have is the insider attacker, which would be an employee. Either is an authorized employee or unauthorized. So people can misuse the rights you've given them. And for some, they can even use the rights you have not given them. All right. These are persons of interest. Your IT personnel are also key people of interest. I mean, they have the easiest access to your assets. All right. And that's why segregation of duties, supervisory controls or administrative controls like supervisory oversight of their activities, all right, are very, very crucial. Then your end users, all right, they could also be your attackers. Often they have broad knowledge of your organization and they have easy access to internal resources. Now, there are a lot of information that are classified as internal, right? Um, and everybody has access to it. But if that information falls into the hands of your competitor, it could actually, I mean, reduce our market share because everything we know, our competitor knows, and they know how to bypass us and even be better than we do. So your end users, they are very important. That's why when we talked about the education side of things, it helps us to build the fence, the protection around the people side of security. All right. If our people are aware, they are trained, they are educated in security practices and best practices, we reduce, we make it more difficult for an attacker to hit us. There's this Yoruba adage that talks about if the rat in the house does not bite you, then the one from outside cannot do you anything harm. I hope I'm correct. I don't know if it's Ekute or something, Sha. People should forgive my Yoruba adage. Just take it, just take it as it is. So you have your end users, your former employees. I mean, your former employees can, if they were in IT or they were developers, they could have actually put backdoors within your application that you're not aware of, especially when you're using solutions that were in-house built. and the builder of that particular application has left, and you guys want to continue to use it without paying him. Most developers would have a way of getting back into their applications. All right. So you want to know that these are the types of people that can attack you. Anybody that you're disgruntled employee or disgruntled ex-employee. All right. That's one. Then you have your nation state. State-sponsored attacks. In the attack between Israel, Palestine, just a few days before, Israel launched an attack on Iran because of the threat of the missile, blah blah blah. One thing happened. The Iranian cyber guys hacked into, I think, Saudi Arabia, and did some malicious things within their system, all right, just to show their strength. So today, warfare has gone beyond just the military warfare of guns, bombs. There are cyber warfare. There are people who are employed to hack into core infrastructures of other nation states. All right. They had there was this Stuxnet attack when Israel first sabotaged Iran's nuclear development. This is more like a second one. That one was basically cyber. They sent a malware into the system and made the centrifuge rotate faster than it should, and it exploded and it destroyed and set them back several years, like 10 or 20 years. Now, 20 years back in the future, they are now at the same point with the ability to develop nuclear weapons that can be used to reach very far reach, can be very far reach, right? Now, so you have nation state sponsored attacks. Russia, Ukraine, there were a lot of cyber attacks that were happening even as the war was going on. All right, even this war with Iran, Israel, there are a lot of cyber attacks on both sides that everybody is just trying to prove superiority. So in the warfare right now, superiority is not just in the number of weapons or arsenals you have or those physical securities you have. Now it's looking at intellectual people with brains, how to break into your system and take over and all of that. But that's a story for another day. We can feel free to read up on some of those things. Then interested or educated outsiders, your competitors, terrorists, organized criminals. They can be your attacker. Then you have your third parties, your part-time employees. Uh, Everywhere I've worked, I try not to look down on anybody. Either you're a cleaner, I will greet you, Ekaro. Either you greet me or not. So funny enough, everywhere I've worked, I get to make friends with these lower cadre people. Not just because I just want to befriend them, but I know that everybody have an intrinsic value, all right. And I have testimonies of at least one of them who worked with us then. He was doing Open University. He was helpful to everybody. And these are people that go everywhere. There's no office they can't enter. I don't think I've entered the MD's office in one of the banks. In the two banks I've worked, I've not really gone to MD's office. I don't have any business with MD. Because anything that will carry me to there, maybe I don't need to be there, because whatever needs to be said, I'll pass it on to my own manager. He can take it up and escalate it upwards. But these are people that there is no office in the company they don't enter. I had a friend who worked in Wema Bank at some point, and he said that one of the cleaners gave him a USB stick. That someone said if he can just plug in that USB stick and bring it out, they'll give him maybe 100,000 or 200,000. How much is his salary? Maybe 10,000 or 20,000 that period. But because of the relationship that he knows that this guy has always been good to me and all that, and okay, maybe religious, but I can't do this kind of thing, even if it's for 100,000. And he reported it. And that's how they were able to foil a plan to sabotage the financial system of that particular bank. So don't just think that people are sitting idle. People are, they exploit the weaknesses of people. The people that you don't pay that much, and they have to be at work as early as 6 in the morning, be the last to leave. Even the staff boss you have, you not allow them to enter. and you say that when somebody will give them checkere money, they will not do the wrong things. So, I mean, we need to pay attention to our part-time and temporary staffs, opportunists, people. I mean, opportunists are basically people that they just happen to be in the right place at the right at the right time and take advantage of it. All right. In the early days of mobile banking, there was a time that you can actually put minus in front of a number instead of just the amount you want to transfer. And rather than transfer money out, your account to be credited. All right. And then you can transfer. Now, those things happen, but it's only a few people that knew. Now, the one that I'm aware of is never on the mobile banking. We had a situation where um, you can deposit money from the ATM. All right. And it was meant for Naira transaction, but you see people try to use it to deposit into their domiciliary account. So that way they were circumventing the authorized way of purchasing dollar. So they were just doing deposit, Naira deposit, and the bank, because the bank rate is the low rate, it was converting their Naira to dollars at the low rate, and then they can go into the bank and withdraw dollars and then sell at a huge margin at the expense of the bank. All right. Now, how do we get to find these things? It's still the people in the bank, the guys that are working in the bank, seeing the transactions. And that's why awareness, security awareness is important. You don't look down on anybody within your system. Make sure everybody is aware, knowing why specific controls are in place and how they should be able to, where they should report, how they should report if they find something suspicious. Okay. Still talking about uh computer issues and exposures. We're looking at common attack methods, right? Um, you can have a situation where just the computer is the target. So the perpetrator just use another computer to directly attack a specific computer. All right. So you can have something they'll call denial of service attack. It's just attacking one system from one system. All right. Then another situation is where you have the computer is the subject. The perpetrator uses a computer to just commit a crime, but the target may not be defined, or the attack is launched with no specific target. And that's where you have more like you call it a distributed denial of service attack. That means you're attacking from several points. So the computers in questions are what is the subject there. Then you have your computer being used as the tool. All right. So the perpetrator uses their computer just to commit the crime, but the primary target is not the computer itself. Just use the computer. The target might be the MD or the CFO, sending them a phishing mail. All right. For them to click and install a keylogger so that they can now start seeing the password of the MD or the CFO and then use those credentials to authorize transactions that should never have gone in the first place. So you can either have the computer as the target, the computer as the subject, computer as the tool, or the computer symbolizes the crime. That means the perpetrator lures the computer user to obtain the confidential information. Then you also have the defense against alteration is basically your cryptographic hash. When we get to the aspect where we talk about encryption, I always try to end in that at that point because it's a major subject. All right, but I don't know if that will be the case with this class, but let's see how far we can go before our time together elapses on the course. But your cryptographic hash is a one-way encryption. So when you hear hash, a hash is a one-way encryption. I mean, and when you hear encryption, encryption is converting a readable text to an unreadable text. All right. So when you encrypt something, you should be able to decrypt it. So you can convert from readable to unreadable, then unreadable to readable. That is encryption. But when you say hash, you are converting a readable to an unreadable, but you can never convert that unreadable back. So we normally use hash to verify integrity of our information or data. So your cryptographic hash is actually used to provide them defense against alteration, so that if you get the hash value, you also recompute. If it has changed, the value, you won't get the same value that was sent. All right. But when we get to under encryption, we'll talk more on that. Right? We just have it at the back of your mind that your cryptographic hash is used to ensure data integrity. And for those of us that have been solving questions, I'm sure you would have actually come across this particular question that has to do with your hashing and the likes. I'll quickly run through some of the common attack methods here. You look at, sorry, I think I went backwards. You look at, we've talked about denial of service. You look at your denial of service. Remember, I talked about script kiddies. They just run scripts. They don't know what kind of this thing, other than they want to stop a service from working. How it's done, they don't know. All right. Now, when you look at a denial of service attack, it's basically aim is to ensure that a particular user or a particular service or a particular system is not available for use. It can be achieved in different ways. It can either be an ICMP flood attack, and when we talk about ICMP, it's when when your system is not working, you call IT, they will go to the command prompt and say ping, then they'll put an IP address, maybe 127.0.1, to see if your local loop address is working, and try to ping google.com to see if it will get to Google. And if it fails, they want to see where it stopped or where it failed. I mean, those are troubleshooting steps. They are not necessary for this exam. So just bear with me. So, but when it comes to your ICMP flood attack, basically your attacker is flooding you with malformed ICMP packets, basically. Then the sync flood attack, the attacker is trying to exploit your TCP IP handshake. All right. So when it comes to communication or digital communication over either wired or wireless, it uses this TCP/IP model. All right, and the way it works is you can either use TCP as your protocol or UDP. UDP is unreliable, but the acronym means User Datagram Protocol, right? But it's like you're broadcasting when you're like a radio station, just sending out signal. It's not waiting to get back from you. All right. But your TCP is more or less call and response. It cannot conclude the communication or close the communication loop until it finalizes. So it has three-way handshake, which is it's called sync. That means call. Then the destination will send a SYN ACK, meaning I received what you sent. Then the sender will not send acknowledge that thank you for acknowledging my initial message, and then ends. So when you see a SYN flood attack, what's happening is that the attacker is sending that first hand of the communication. When the recipient send the second hand, all right, which is a SYN ACK, it's not getting to the attacker is not acknowledging it. So that connection keeps open. So it opens several of such communication channels and exhausts the memory of the system to the point where it can no longer serve legitimate users. And you have your teardrop attack, basically fragmenting your IP packets and having oversized payloads to the target, which makes them malfunction because they can't handle it. Then you have your peer-to-peer attack. So you have it causes your clients of large peer-to-peer sharing. And I mean, has any of us ever downloaded anything from torrents? Or are we all good? Are we all good children in? Oh, sorry for calling us children. Are we all good men and women in the class? Has anybody downloaded anything from torrents before?
I know.
Okay, you've never downloaded anything from torrents, but have you heard about torrent sites before?
Torrent, no.
Okay. It's the only for Ashade that has never heard of torrent before now.
I used to try with BitTorrent back, but this was way back in the day now.
Yeah. It's still torrent still the market. So
As that. Well, I don't know. I really thought they shut it down and nobody
They
uses
tried,
torrent
they
anymore.
tried, they tried, they tried. I'm coming. I have to see if I'll be able to lay my hands
But
on.
it was for downloading movies now, but then everything is on Netflix or subscription. So what are you
Yeah,
looking for on torrent?
it wasn't only movies. All right, there. I'm coming. Let me see. It wasn't only movies. You download applications. You download yeah, movies, applications, training videos that are not on Netflix. I mean, today, I mean, Netflix seems to be more affordable now. I think in Nigeria it should be like 5,000 or 5,005 or something. I mean, depending on the package you are going for. But the truth is, not everybody can afford uh, the 5,005 per month for
It's 8.5 now.
how much is it now?
8.5.
Which package are you using now? You're a big boy, oh.
It was premium. I used premium. It was 4K and then it went to 7K and then
And we know they
in
use
1 month.
premium now. I think we are using. I was using the is it the 2,000 naira one or something? It's the basic one. That's I don't know. So let me quickly share my page here. So we'll just quickly have a look and we'll go back to the slides and continue. Just bear with me. I used to have this uTorrent on my, I mean, the application is still there. So we did, I could download some stuff. But I want to see the challenge again is when you delve into torrent site, things where you no one see, you will see. So that's why I will not be going to any torrent site so as not to have provocative stuffs popping left, right, center. It's also an avenue for virus and malwares. So you get both the good, the bad, and the ugly. So when you go to all those sites, it's easy to get your system infected. But if you want to go, you want to make sure you are going on a closed device, maybe on a virtual machine that's not connected to any of your stuff. So it's something that you can easily delete if anything goes wrong on that particular stuff. All right. But you see here that um, you this just like a Reddit, people asking about, okay, let me just type, just forgive me, let me quickly just do some, let me remove, so torrents are still there basically, and it's actually like the major ones with all these Pirate Bay, this RARBG, I mean, but the thing is, a lot of them has viruses also. All right, but you could actually get some that will give you stuff that do not have virus, but you just need to be careful. So if you're going to torrent site, you need to be careful. So like this, I won't be going to any of the site because I know that I can't predict what I see there at this point in class. So except I verify it before I can share it in the class. All right, so these are just some general sites like your Pirate Bay. I mean, for me, what I did get from some of the stuff was okay. I was interested in some trainings. All right, videos. YouTube was doing me well then, so wasn't a big deal. But these are just some of the stuffs. You have IP torrent, file list. I mean, your Pirate Bay is one that has always been around for a while. So they shut them down, they bring them up. And I mean, one of the things you also need to be careful of is a lot of the things that they share are pirated. That is, I mean, they are not licensed to, it's unauthorized sharing of proprietary information. So if you are in a country uh, where privacy is taken serious, you do not want to do this kind of stuff on your personal laptop or anywhere it can be found. All right. So it's better to avoid it. And that's because, I mean, some of the things that you're looking for there, you can easily find it on the web directly. So, but it's easier to download. But what led us down that rabbit hole? So let me go back to the slide. And so, Folashade, you understand what the torrent sites and the peer-to-peer stuff is right now, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's just basically sharing and not sharing the conventional way of downloading from a website. What happens is that you are copying the file from another person's system directly. So the more people who are sharing it or seeding it, as the word is being used, the faster it is. So a lot of times, actually faster downloading stuff through torrents, especially if it's something that several people are sharing on their system. But then what happens is that the third parties are having access to a particular section of your system, and that's where that peer-to-peer attack comes to play. That's where the peer-to-peer attack comes to play. Okay, so they have access to your system, can lead to degradation. Then you have something we call permanent denial of service attack, or PA-clashing. Basically damages the system hardware and it will lead to replacement. All right. So, I mean, you can't recover from it. So that's something that maybe if you hear that term in the exam, just know that it's a type of denial of service, but it attacks the hardware. It's not just the software. You can't just reinstall the OS or reinstall the application. It destroys it even to the electronic level to the point you have to replace the hardware itself. And that's your permanent denial of service attack, or PLASHing, yeah. Then you have your application level flood attack. Basically, an example would be like your buffer overflow, your brute force attack also. I mean, and then you have your banana attack. So basically redirects ongoing messages from your client back to home to client, preventing outside access and flooding. So, I mean, you have different types of attacks that could happen. So for us as IS auditors, the major concern is how does these attacks impact the availability aspects of CIA? I know I've talked about CIA with us before, confidentiality, integrity, and availability, which is the core foundation of information security, as we've said. So, if you check all of this that we've talked about, we're talking about the example we're just even looking at now is just denial of service attack. And you can see over, so let me even see if I can quickly, we have over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I mean, examples of just one type of attack, right? So we need to oh, how do I say it now? We need to be intentional. What every attack that we will talk about would affect different legs of this security triad, your CIA. So your denial of service attack, whatever method is used, all right, would be affecting the availability of either an application, a service, or even a server, like in the case of your PDOS. Okay, then we have another type of attack here, which is our eavesdropping. And eavesdropping can either be physical or logical, all right? But in this case, we're talking about just the logical here right now. Okay, so basically, when somebody I mean, in the exam, we'll talk about both the physical and logical. So let me just explain it. So eavesdropping is just as the name sounds. Someone is listening into your conversation. Now, if it's physical, the person might just be standing around and listening to a call that you're making, or the person can serve as a man in the middle, install a software on on your phone, so that when you're making a call, the attacker's phone also rings and they can just listen without interrupting. They hear every single thing you're saying. So that's eavesdropping, right? Now, the impact, it can lead to unauthorized access, fraudulent use of information, compromise of sensitive information, and the likes. Now, another type of attack that is common is phishing. Phishing is something that we've seen over and over, and is a type of masquerading, covering your true identity. All right. I mean, pretending to be someone that is a trustworthy and person. So, I mean, your phishing attacks are actually carried out through what we call social engineering, link manipulation, website forgery. You click on a site thinking you're going to your bank site, but you're going to a fake site. That's your website forgery. Your link manipulation, you click on a link, instead of going to where you're meant to go, it directs you to another link. Your social engineering, someone is exploiting the human weakness of trust. And we'll look at the different ways here. The types of phishing you have your spear phishing is a targeted attack pointing against a specific set of people or person. All right. Your whaling actually always targets your C-suits, the people with the, I mean, I don't know. Did you guys hear about this guy? Is it one Igbo guy? Is it Chuku became the guy that did he made BEC very popular in Nigeria then, this business email compromise. He took over one of the emails of these top executives in one of these I think financial institutions in the USA. All right. So whaling attack is more specific than spear phishing. Spear phishing looks at a specific set of people. It could be maybe IT administrators, IT auditors, bank tellers. But when it comes to whaling, it's to one person, especially in the C-suite, who has access to valuable and proprietary business information. Okay, then smishing is a type of phishing that is done through sending SMS. Phishing is through voice call. Basically, in all of these, the attacker just pretends to be somebody of authority and threatens the victim. All right. For example, money is a sensitive issue for most people. I use the word most so that I don't appear to be generalizing. But if you ask yourself, who is the person that is due for salary and when he's not paid, he will just keep quiet? There's nobody. So an attacker can just call that, we noticed your account has been frozen due to fraud. We need to, are you the one that did the transaction? You say, no, help me. Anything you can do to help me, anything you can do to help me. I say, okay, for us to help you, we'll be sending you a code now. Once you get that code, send it to us and free your account. And it sounds legitimate. And in fact, that was what they were using to defraud a lot of our customers. And it led to, I'll call it an innovation or an improvement in our processes. If you go back in time and check banks that were sending OTP to customers, most of the OTPs you got then just sent you numbers without telling you what those numbers are meant for. So, but learning from our mistakes and the errors, anytime you get an OTP from a bank now, it tells you that this OTP is to authorize transaction of either 5 million, 10,000, 1,000, whatever the amount is. All right. Because we're trying to save on text message, it led to a lot of defrauding of customers. So, but with that control in place and sensitization of both the internal and external customers, when our customers get those kind of SMS, they know that they are not supposed to give it out. Because if you give it out, the question is, was the SMS clear? The OTP, did it tell you what it was meant for? Yes or no? The moment, it's yes, the bank will just say, oh, we are sorry. We'll follow up with the other banks, but you can't get your money back. The bank will not change, will not give you your money because the bank is not at fault. All right. So that's that on phishing. Any questions on the common attacks we've discussed so far? Is there anything that's strange or not clear, or my explanation was not clear? You need further explanation? Please feel free to ask. Is it clear so far?
For us that we are not in IT before, some of it are a bit new. It's not that they are not clear or strange, but just
Just new.
yes, just new to us.
And being new is okay. The idea is it's new today. Tomorrow, when you read it in your manual, is no longer new. Next tomorrow or tomorrow, when you encounter it in your practice question, maybe when you're working together, it's no longer new, right? And so, the idea is, if the explanation is clear, you're able to remember some of the things that are said, then that's okay. And again, maybe I'll just put it out there. In the exam, they are not going to test you if you know what a phishing attack is. The way it will come, it will just be in a scenario base, telling you a customer was called or this happened, what kind of controls should be in place. All right. So if you actually can follow through the example that or the scenario that is being painted, I believe you'll be able to discern what kind of solution will be best and be able to even put it in any of these categories. Either is a denial of service type of attack, or a phishing type of attack, or is an eavesdropping type of attack, and the likes. Okay. Um, Thanks for Ashade for sharing that. But if there's anyone that maybe I explained something and is not clear, please feel free to ask. And yeah, feel free to ask, please. Feel free to ask. Now, so the next is talking about type of attack is flooding. If you look at the description, there is a type of denial of service attack. So you find out that a lot of these things, when we look at it, it's going to more like repeat itself, but with a different different name. So a flooding attack is a DOS attack that brings down network services by overwhelming it with large amounts of traffic. So flooding is just like flooding of water, where water don't pass Gary or water is more than the drainage, and then it has to find its level over the drainage and the whole street is flooded. So that's just basically flooding, yeah. Um, Before I move ahead, I think it's just good to point out that when you were looking at phishing, just have that back of your mind that is one of the top threat vectors that you would likely find in your exams, right? And basically, its target is the human element in security, the people side of things. So the control for this phishing is user awareness, robust security, robust email security controls. Such that for us then in the bank, we have some tools like to filter out spam mails, malicious mails, so that it doesn't even get to the users. So that is a technical control, all right. Robust email security controls, those are technical controls. But if there are any ones that slip through those technical controls, then the user awareness trainings that you've been giving your employees over the years will kick in, and they are now able to stop those ones that successfully came in or bypass your technical controls. Yeah. Then another type of common attack here is the juice jacking. Uh, yeah, it basically occurs when a malware is installed on or data is copied from a smartphone, tablet, or other devices using often public USB charging ports that can also act as data connection. So I don't know. In BRT, can you charge your phone in BRT using the USB port there? Sorry, anybody that has entered BRT in recent times. I've not entered in recent times. That's what I'm asking, please. Is it possible to charge your phone in BRT? Does it have a charging port? USB ports.
It used to have, I think, not all of them. I think it depends on the model.
Okay, some of them used to have, right?
Yes.
Okay, so that's the type we're looking at here. This juice jacking attack happens when a port like that, which you see in buses like BRT and in some other countries, trains and the likes, you plug your phone. That port can serve as both data and current. So if you are not careful, somebody else who knows how to manipulate the system plugged into, because it's like a network, all right, plugged into another port somewhere on that bus or on that train, will be able to copy data from your phone or even install a malware, all right, on your phone. So that's why it's always good. When you want to charge your phone in the public, preferably use your power bank. It doesn't cost much. it costs more now. Let me say it doesn't cost much. It costs more now because I know how much I used to buy power bank before and how much it is now. So, but the idea is whatever it is, let's be careful with just charging using public infrastructure because it could be used to install malware on our devices or even, steal data from our devices. Now, other types of common attacks, you talk about malicious code. Um, Types of malicious code. Basically, a malicious code is just a program or application that's been designed to carry out one or more harmful actions, basically. Now, an example of a malicious code will be a Trojan horse. Anyone who has watched the Battle of Troy would know the story of the Trojan horse. In the Battle of Troy, the country, a smaller country, chose to surrender to the bigger country, but the bigger country didn't know that it was a tactic, and they gifted that bigger country with a horse. All right, it's a sign of pride, a sign of victory that the enemy surrendered. But what they did not know was that within that horse or that gift that they got were some valiant soldiers who will come out in the middle of the night after they are drunk to kill all the warriors and burn down their country. All right. So that's where the Trojan horse analogy came from. Now, I mentioned something about torrent sites. All right. Torrent sites are like watering holes for virus malware because you can download a software and you download the cracker. They tell you to install the cracker to bypass the controls on the software. But you don't know that beyond just getting the software, the unauthorized software, an attacker has taken over your system. They have access to everything you have, your account, all the passwords that you are saving on your browser and other things can be stolen from you just by that action. So a Trojan horse is a gift with some bad intention embedded in it or bad programming embedded in it. Now, another types of malicious code is logic bomb. When we're talking about the classes of possible attackers, we talked about ex-employees, and I gave the analogy of a developer who built your in-house application. All right, he it might seem harmful. It might seem okay. This developer he's left. Nothing happens. But if that ex-employee is disgruntled, it's possible that in his application that you are still using, there's a backdoor, and that backdoor checks to see if he's still in the system. After 1 year or even 6 months that is no longer in the system, it can reprogram itself to make it impossible for you to work or take your data into ransom, encrypting everything. And then you start looking for the person who wrote it. And most of these inbuilt written applications have poor documentation so that even maintaining them is a nightmare on its own. All right, so that's an example of a logic bomb. Basically, a program or a section of a code that is triggered by specific conditions, time, or events. For example, employee termination and the likes. And then the way it goes about it, you talk about your honey tokens, basically administrators intentionally installing this to look vulnerable but act as alarm. So we've talked about logic bomb. Your honey, there's something you call honey nets or honey pots. When you say honey net, basically it's more than one system involved, a network of systems. But it's a deception type of attack where you as an organization, you're pretending to be vulnerable, pretending that things are not working so that your potential attackers will attack that your fake setup. So you'll be able to know how an attacker would likely come against you, and then you use that lessons learned to fortify your actual assets. Then you have your trapdoor or backdoor. It's also a type of malicious code. Basically, what happens is a developer or a programmer embeds bits and pieces of code that allows them to be able to quickly access this application for testing and debugging. And this is one of the reasons why it's always encouraged that you do not allow your programmers to be the same persons to deploy application in production. And that's the essence of that segregation of duties, because if you allow it, they will either intentionally or unintentionally push back doors into production, which you don't want, because anybody with access to the application with prerequisite knowledge will be able to find those back doors. Even if the developer meant well, putting it so that in case something go wrong, you'll be able to bypass the normal controls and get in. Just the same way he can get in, a motivated attacker would also find that backdoor. So it's better not to have a backdoor in your production environment. It's best not to have a backdoor in your production environment. Um, Defense against logic bomb and trapdoors or backdoors. The threat vector analysis, segregation of duties. I mentioned about segregation of duties where one person cannot start and finish the process. Carrying out an audit of the codes. And that's why, I mean, your programmer or your developer shouldn't be the one deploying solutions. In some of the banks I've worked, when they are done, they hand it over to control, they hand it over to security team, they hand it over to audit. I mean, not audit now, the business user testers or UAT team to test the user functionalities, while control and the core security team does the code audit, security audit of the application, check if they will be able to find any vulnerability or weakness or any backdoor. All right. So it's important. Your segregation of duty will save you a lot. It's a control against your logic bombs, against your trapdoors. Now, another type of attack is man in the middle. Basically, the attacker is intercepting communication between two parties. He listens to it. You can also look at the man in the middle as a type of eavesdropping. But in this case, the attacker is actually impersonating the other person. So it's not just eavesdropping, because eavesdropping, it's not an active attack. You are just listening in. You are not the one the person on the other side is talking to. But when it comes to man in the middle attack, the attacker assumes the identity of both parties. So the sender thinks he's talking to the recipient, and the destined recipient thinks he's being communicated to by the sender, but not knowing that, they are talking to a middleman. Like when you want to rent house, you don't go directly to the landlord most times, because you really do not have access to the landlord. So you likely go through an agent. So anything that the agent says is what you would likely do, because the agent said this is what the landlord wants. But in the long run, you might end up meeting the landlord, or if the landlord is around and all of that. But in a lot of cases, it's just the agent you deal with. Okay. So it's just to give us an example. The agent here is the man in the middle. Although in the scenario I gave, is more like an authorized man in the middle. But in most cases, when we're talking about a man in the middle attack, it's not obvious to us like the agent is to the customer who wants to rent. Okay, so that's man in the middle attack. And masquerading, we've talked about masquerading earlier when we talked about phishing. We said it's a type of masquerading also, because the attacker is pretending to be someone that can be trusted, a trusted entity, and all of that. So when you talk about masquerading, it's basically a type of active attack where the intruder pretends to be who they are not. So they present a false identity. So you've heard the word that we are all wearing masks. Now, it might be true for some, but the best would be if you can live your life without the mask, because you are complete. You are always who you're meant to be part-time. But for some of us, we do not show all of ourselves to everybody. To some people we are blacks, to some we are white, to some we are heroes, to some we are bad guys. But either way, the truth is we all wear one form of mask at one point or the other. But the difference between the mask you and I wear is the fact that this masquerade is stealing an identity and presenting an identity that is false. And the purpose is just basically to bypass controls and gain access to things or gain access to resources that the original identity would be able to gain access to. Then you have another type of attack, your message modification, basically unauthorized changes or deletions to messages. All right, altering sequences, delaying transmission. These are message um, modification attack. Now, this particular attack affects the integrity of the information. So I want to just bring it back to our CIA. Affects the integrity of the information. All right. Integrity, not availability, but integrity. All right. Your masquerading attack, your man in the middle attack, even your malicious code attack are attacks against confidentiality of your information, because when you're masquerading, you want to gain access to information that you are not supposed to have access to. When you are acting as a man in the middle in communication between two parties, you are gaining access to sensitive information that you are not authorized to have access to, or the attacker is not authorized to have access to. So it's important that we have that at the back of our mind when we are analyzing different types of attack. We need to be looking at, okay, what aspect of security is he attacking? Is it confidentiality, is it integrity, is it availability? We discussed earlier, we said the denial of service attack and the likes were all attacks on availability of our services. Now, an attack can affect more than one leg. You can have you can have a denial of service attack that affects availability, but ultimately also leads to a breach of confidentiality, especially where there is a logic flaw in the application, where when you bombard it too much with useless information, it begins to spill over sensitive information from memory, and the attacker has access to information they should not have. So it's possible that an attack can achieve more than one objective, basically. Then network analysis and footprinting. So basically, what your attacker is doing is taking a complete profile of your organization's network security infrastructure. It's trying to draw a map. When you're traveling around, maybe I'm traveling from Lagos to Delta. All right. Um, Having a map helps, even though I know that, okay, drive straight down to toll gates, straight down to camp, straight down, and then you turn right, you head towards Ore and see all the and meet all the police checkpoints. You get to Benin. Can either choose to go directly through Benin or Benin bypass. And even that Benin bypass, if you no get map, you'll find out that you're in Ekpoma if you are not careful. So you need to know the road, right? So what a network analysis type of attack is your attacker is trying to have a map of your organization, of your network, of your devices, of your assets, so that he would know how to jump from point to point, which assets to attack, how to attack it, and the likes. All right. So, I mean, that's a very dangerous type of attacks, and it's systematic in nature. All right. So that's that. So another thing you should also have at the back of our mind is your network analysis or reconnaissance attack is often the first step or a precursor to a more damaging type of attack. All right, so it might seem okay, it's just getting the map. The map is just the beginning point. Once he has the map, he knows which system is here, which system is there, which system will I destroy or will I affect that we have the greatest damage on this organization. So most times it's the first step before several other attacks happen. Still common types of attack, piggybacking can either be physical or electronic. So when you talk about piggybacking, it means, for me, I always use the term follow. When you say somebody is piggybacking, I mean for all of us, most times, most likely where we work, you need to badge yourself into your premises, right? And so a piggyback will be you're badging in and somebody runs in and holds the door without using their own card. If your staffs are well trained and they are aware, they will tell the person no, all right, and tell the person that they can't open the door for them. They should use their badge. Um, my wife went to the gym. It was yesterday or so with the card, and so she was just telling me that when she went, when she badged in, someone else wanted to come in, but because she wasn't familiar with the person and don't know the person, she was like, no, she can't really allow do that. The person should badge in herself. And that's someone who is risk aware and also sensitive to, okay, you don't know who you're letting into the premises. You don't want to be held responsible for allowing unauthorized persons in. So that's just on the light side. So, but the idea is that's a physical piggybacking. Electronic piggybacking will be you receive a mail, but within the mail, there are some breadcrumbs there that can infect your system. All right. So electronically attaching to an authorized communication. An electronic piggybacking would be, okay, for example, I want to send Folashade a mail from my system, right? Let's say I want to send her um, I want to send her a short note on a particular concept that she is not so clear about, or yeah, or a particular document that will help her to carry out a particular work she's doing in the office. Now, that's the idea. But if my system adventure is already infected with a virus, that virus will attach itself to that file. You see that the communication between me and Folashade is legit. The file that I'm to share with her is what she's expecting, so it's also legit. But the virus that is attached to it is not legit. It's not legit. It's basically an electronic attachment to an authorized communication link. All right. So piggybacking is considered a physical access exposure most times, but it can either be both physical and electronic. Then you have this thing called race condition, time of check, time of use. One of the things that you do when you are carrying out application assessment is you're checking for the authentication parameters. You want to be sure that there are no hard-coded passwords and notes within the application. You want to ensure that there is proper role segregation, segregation of duties, there is proper authorization, accounting, login, everything is in place. Another thing you check is to ensure that before a user is authorized to do something or access the system, the user is first authenticated. So basically, you're looking at the process flow. I mean, developers are developers, they are humans still, all right? They are good, they understand the language. But sometimes, in order to get things done quickly, they take shortcuts, and those shortcuts end up becoming a problem. And that's why we also, before we deploy things in production, we need secondary and third degree eye or review, all right, from the security perspective, that is your control team and then maybe your security specialist. The idea is to be able to be sure that you don't have this kind of race condition where you're exploiting a small window of time between when the security control is applied and when the service is used. So basically, it's a situation where you can bypass the login or the authentication side and gain the authorization side. Remember, uh, I don't know if it's last 2 weeks or the class we had before that. We talked about the CIA, and I also mentioned the IAAA, which is the Identification, Authentication, Authorization. All right. You need to first be identified, either with a username or something, all right, for the logical access. then that username needs to be authenticated. Authentication, yeah, authenticated. That means for this particular user, what do you know that can be used to authenticate you? All right. What you know, your password, your PIN, those are things you know. And when we talk about authentication, it's not just only what you know. I think I mentioned, or let me just mention now, it has 4 degrees. What you know, what you have, who you are, then where you are, your geographic location. A lot of sites today, if you are not in a particular region, it will not allow you access to even view it. I recall when I was doing my master's then in ISACA for cybersecurity, there are some assignments they give us, some sites we needed to visit to do those work. I could not do it because I was in Nigeria. And all I needed to do was now install VPN, bypass the geolocation access restriction, and then I could now access those sites using VPN. Now, that is one. Now, who we are, it speaks to our biometrics, thumbprint, facial recognition. When I first registered on LinkedIn, was it LinkedIn? No. Um, Coursera. All right. They took a sample of my typing pattern. All right. And everybody is different. The places where we put pressure are different for each person. All right. And because Coursera was also looking at providing school verification, so they need to be able to uniquely verify that nobody is sitting for an exam for somebody else. So how you type, your looks, and everything all come to play. So basically, what we're saying here is that when we're looking at your race condition, is a situation where instead of authenticate following the process of identification, authentication, then authorization, within a short time of window when the authentication process is happening, the authentication can be bypassed and authorization kicks into effect, which means that even if I put in the wrong password, with some little tricks, I can have access to the system because I was able to, engage the authorization side um, before the authentication came as either successful or failure. So that's your race condition. So you can see the courses there. It talks about sequence or non-atomic process. Yeah. So untrusted processes, for example, by an attacker, get in between the secure program steps of that's the authentication and authorization. So the authentication should happen before authorization, but if an attacker is able to breach that process, the authorization kicks into effect without waiting for the response from the authentication leg of that process. So the sequence. Then you also have other causes could be deadlocks or live locks or locking failure. Basically, you're looking at these trusted processes running the same program can interfere due to shared privileges or even memory shares and all of that. So, as I said, a lot of these issues that we talk about, and especially this race condition, happens when developers do not build with security in mind. They just build, okay, make we build solution. But when you build with security in mind, then you'll be able to cater for this. Now, the mitigation for your race condition is basically careful programming, good administration practices. If we follow proper and good coding practices, we would likely avoid this race condition. Another type of attack we have here is your remote maintenance tools. So basically, you have using unsecure, configured, and controlled tools by attacker to remotely gain elevated access. There was a particular incident that happened several years ago in one of the companies I worked, and what the attacker did was I had unauthorized remote solution. I am trying to remember the name. It's a popular RDP solution. Can anybody remind me of any remote desktop solution that is common, very, very common and easily available? Just give me a minute. Let me see if I can find the name. So for us, we noticed that for every of the system that for every of the system that were compromised, yes, this team viewer, you find out that there is always one team viewer or the other there. And the way it is, for a huge fraud or an attack to be successful, for organizations that are security conscious and have been investing in security, it would require both external and internal factor. All right. So, like in the case we talked about these uh, uh, having remote desktop, unauthorized remote desktop solutions on the systems that were affected, somebody within the network of that bank must have accepted that connection and opened the channel down. All right. And it only just takes one leg in. Once you are inside the network, the rest is hopping from point to point. And that's where the damage, or I mean the value of that network map that they get during the reconnaissance phase, the network uh, diagram of your environment, getting to know where what devices are active and which ones are not active on your network. So it's very, very important. It's very, very important that we make sure that we are always scanning to see if there are unauthorized tools in use in our organization. Now, resource enumeration and browsing, basically enumeration is a type of scanning. You're just checking, okay, what are the list of resources, the name directory, I mean, who are the people in the system, who has access to what, and that's just resource enumeration and browsing type of attack. It sounds not too harmful, but what you should have at the back of your mind is this: the more information an attacker has, the more harmful that attacker can be to you and your organization. The more harmful that attacker can be to you and to your organization. The next is your salami attack. Basically, what is happening here is you're just taking a little piece of the pie. And if you look at the example here, that 1,235,954.39 cents can now be reduced to 1,235,954.30. Now, a lot of times people don't recognize or take note of the small changes in their balances. And that's where the salami attack thrives. Taking small, imperceptible or money that they will not miss, money they not go miss, all right, from people's account. And if you take, in this case, it was just like 0.9 cents. If you take it from like 100 million accounts, that's like $9 million on his own, just taking 0.9 from everybody. All right. So your salami attack basically just is an attack that takes just a little slice of pie from everybody using computerized method. Then we've talked about social engineering when we're talking about phishing. Basically, as I said earlier, it's hacking of the human mind, exploiting the human psychology, tricking people. I mean, preying on their fears, on their doubts, on their insecurities. I mean, when you're doing social engineering, uh, your attacker, if he knows you very well, maybe you've been visiting indecent sites, you've been cheating on your spouse, and they have your picture, they have this, they have evidences. It's just going to be a matter of blackmailing to say, I mean, we need to do this. If you do it, we'll give you back all that we have on you. If not, we'll publish it and you lose your job. Or they gather enough. I mean, a lot of people, they are all everything about their life. If you want to know it, you see it on Facebook. When they are happy is on Facebook. When they are sad is on Facebook. When their father dies is on Facebook. When they get married is on Facebook. Everything about them is on Facebook. So someone that does not know you, by just reading all the posts you have on Facebook, can actually create a persona of who you are, your likes, your dislikes. I mean, if there's anything you take away from this class, don't undermine the effort and the work that goes into social engineering or any form of cyber attack or any cyber security skills. And these guys that we call Yahoo Yahoo, they are not lazy boys. They stay up at night, they do research, they do a whole lot to fine tune their skills to the point where they can always get something out of several calls. All right. So basically, what they are doing is social engineering, exploiting the human weakness. When they pretend to be a guy pretends to be a woman to an elderly man, it's because he knows that the elderly man he has a desire for, I mean, desired attraction to the opposite sex, and you keep say the right things to him, he would sell all he has just to please the woman of his life. Only that he doesn't know that the woman of his life is a black young man somewhere in a hotel, just speaking the English that he wants to hear. All right. So when we talk about social engineering, it's basically hacking the human minds primarily. And the best defense, as we've said earlier, is security awareness. The more aware your employees are, the less they are at risk to social engineering attacks. Any questions so far? Has any of us solved any question around that you've encountered some of these terminologies and maybe you knew it then or maybe you did not know it, but it's making more sense now? I mean, have we solved any questions that you encountered some of these terminologies that we're engaging today? So that means you've not solved any question that has any of these things in it.
I have.
Yes.
Okay. All right. But the explanations and the conversation, more like explanation because the class hasn't been too chatty today. I don't know why. Maybe it's because Folashade came late to class. She's not motivated. Or maybe Tosin is very busy. I don't know. I'm just calling names or Ebenezer or Ben.
No, we've actually not had time to look into module 5. We've been solving module 1, 2. I think we had 4 also. So I think it's tomorrow now we'll see module 5.
Okay, okay, no problem. Just let's see how it goes. The idea is with introduction of these things that we're discussing, when you engage it in the practice questions, it makes more sense. And
Yes.
you can put it in light of the context of the question that you're dealing with, because every time you see has to be interpreted in the context of the question that it is being seen in. Now, here we're looking at still continuing on the common attack methods. There are several. We'll just spend our time to cover as much as we can today. And if we cannot finish it, we'll continue the next time we meet. But I'm trying to take my time to explain it or at least give some examples from what I have seen. And so that if you encounter it at any point in time, at least you have the basic knowledge. Remember, as I said in at the beginning of this course, what CISA expects of you is that you're a jack of all trade. Then you can then become a master of one or more areas. But they are not going to tell you to simulate a cross site request forgery or a cross site scripting type of attack. No, but they just want to know, do you know what it is? And do you know how to protect against it? If you are in this position, what would you suggest? All right. So now let's go ahead with the different common attacks that we have. So we have injection attack. Basically, most times your injection attack, you'll see it An example would be your SQL injection. All right. Basically, you're inserting additional data, taking advantage of either a website or a client-server architecture and introducing um, another data that will help you bypass the restrictions or the controls that are within those systems. All right. That's an injection attack. And the impact it could lead to a breach of confidentiality. I mean, you can now query and find sensitive information that you should never have gotten. All right. It could also even lead to loss of data, even deletion, modification. So it could affect the integrity of the information itself. Um, and you could actually use it to carry out a denial of service attack. So, for example, if you're able to gain the root access to an SQL database using SQL injection, which means you can drop tables, you can drop even the database, you can do and undo, you can modify information and all of that. All right. So an injection attack is a very, very, very serious type of attack. So for us as an auditor, we need to be able to understand the different types of the web application vulnerabilities like the injection attack, zero-day exploits, cryptojacking, cross-site scripting, and the CSRF. And that's because they are very, very important. One of the things that we should take note is input validation. The control against these types of attacks that we have seen here are majorly input validation. Okay, I gave an example of when you could put a negative in front of a number and your account was credited in the early days of mobile banking. The reason it happened was because the servers were taking everything that it received, hook, line, and sinker. All right. But today, even if you put minus in front of an account, in front of a number, in fact, they don't even allow you to put number because they've restricted your input to just numbers. So if you're using a GT app and you want to put an amount, the keyboard changes from the normal letter keyboards to just numbers 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So there's no even room for you to put minus anymore. The days where you could put minus was because you're using a regular keyboard like the normal words and they expect that you just put the number by yourself. But now they've restricted you. So input validation controls would help a lot when it comes to these attacks that tries to circumvent the input controls that we have in place. All right. So the input organization the organization should ensure input validation, sanitization to ensure attackers cannot inject malicious script into web pages. For example, the ampersand sign, the and sign, before you can put it. But now if you check your SMS, you won't see that sign there. So a lot of input sanitation is happening. When you put special characters in your narration and all those things, the application, most secured applications now sanitize every parameter, everything that can be used in the database to circumvent it and just take it out and will not even send it to the server side. All right. So that is input validation and sanitization happening. Your zero-day exploit basically is an exploit or a weakness that was not previously known. So it's just being known for the first time. All right. So, the mitigation that you have for 0 day is just your continuous patch management, having a sandbox approach. Update your softwares regularly. There was this company that was affected with a 0 day vulnerability that affected major companies in the US. Trying to remember the name. And the name of the company is not coming to me right now, but it was a major network provider in the US. and there was a 0 day attack that was exploited and their data was breached. All right. So the idea is these attacks are linked. One attack might seem innocuous or not too harmful, like the network footprinting, but it's just the first step to some other terrible things that can happen. Okay. So for your 0 day, we said that you need to continuous patch management. You need to have your incident response plan in place. I mean, for that particular scenario I mentioned, the organization was able to come up with a patch quickly. I mean, and send it to their partners and their customers, who then tested and implemented immediately, and then they reduce or stop the bleeding. All right. So 0 day attacks or 0 day vulnerabilities are things that has not been discovered. The moment they are discovered, solutions are possible. But once the solutions are there, you need to patch it. So you find out that a lot of people are using applications that are obsolete. They are new patches. Those patches are not just for show. They are not just because, I mean, a company want to push out patch. It's because they saw a weakness, they saw a vulnerability, they saw something that is not working well, and they needed to fix it. So, I mean, we need to ensure that our patch management process are optimal. You also have your crypto jacking, basically mining cryptocurrencies. Um, and basically they take over people's computer devices. You know, when you talk about crypto mining, it utilizes a lot of resources. So in order to make it work, I mean, attackers now install malwares, or I mean, some malicious software on your system that allows them to utilize some of your hardware resources, memory, storage, just to mine. So to now create more like a big network of miners. So for some of us, you say, my system is slow, my system is slow. If you check it very well, it might happen that there is an unauthorized software that is running a mining application on your system, utilizing your resources without you even knowing. Okay, so the mitigation for this, we said, is you need to monitor the CPU usage, network devices, train your employees to spot performance issues. I mean, some of these things are not just meant to just be for IT support persons only. Before you call IT, you should be able to do Control Shift Escape or Control Alt Delete, and then choose what do you call it now? Your system performance stuff. All right. Once you do it, I mean, to call up your task manager. And when you do Control Delete, you can choose task manager. If you do Control Shift Escape, the task manager comes up automatically. We need to be able to teach people to say, okay, if your system is malfunctioning, just quickly check. If you check what application is using the greatest memory, for me most times is my Chrome, because I have a lot of tabs open. All right. And you say, okay, what application is using the greatest CPU? You teach them, yeah, click on CPU and check. They'll be able to know. Right now, the application that is using the most CPU power for me is Zoom. And that's because that's the means we are using for the training now. So you need to be able to teach your staffs what to check out for, how to check things. All right. That way, everything does not just rise and fall on IT. Because if everything has to rise and fall on IT, then you're in trouble already. Now, another type of attack here is your cross-site scripting. So basically, an attacker has a script that they will deploy on your system to infect users who visit that site and then redirect them to a malicious site. So at least from the test I've done, some of these cross-site scripts can actually be uploaded in what we call forms. So you put the code directly in the form or something. And you know, forms also, they have a storage repository. It could be a database or something where every information from the form goes to. So once you put that script, once it gets to the database, you can easily run it from there. And anytime anybody goes to that form, if they click on it, you direct them to where you want to direct them to and steal their credentials. That's an application. Now, The control to this cross-site scripting is what we've discussed before: input, validation, and sanitization. It will prevent cross-site scripting, to prevent injection attack. It would also prevent even your cross-site request forgery. I mean, because everything has to do with anything that you have to impute these scripts or malicious code, then you should be able to sanitize what is entering any form or any field on your site or your application. Now, the cross-site request forgery forces a victim to either execute unwanted actions on a web application where they are currently authenticated. So it could be they are sending a malicious link for you to click on. I mean, I'm always careful. I mean, with the GDPR, every site you visit, they always want your consent to store cookies, consent to use your details for marketing purpose. I mean, they always want consent. So for me, anytime I have to give consent, I always go for just only necessary. And in some cases, I don't even give consent. And then I'm still able to access the site. There are some sites, if you don't give consent, you can't go further. But if I don't give consent and I can go further, I'd rather not give consent and go further. That way, you're not supposed to track me or anything. Now, so the impact here is that for general users, fund transfers or email changes, for administrative accounts, I mean, it can affect practically anybody or even any application. So that's just talking about your cross-site and request forgery. They've tried to force you to take actions that are not natural or are not even part of the design process for the application. Still talking about common attacks. We just quickly look at a few, then take a look at some things, and when it's for our round up, we'll try to round up before then. Now, another type of attack is your DNS tunneling. Now, DNS is domain name service. I mean, what makes the World Wide Web work is your DNS. Because in reality, communications are ones and zeros. At the machine level, at the network level, what they are interested in is IP address, MAC address. On the wire, on the wireless, it's just ones and zeros. So, I mean, when you say www.google.com, that www.google.com is just for you and I. It doesn't make any sense to the systems. So your DNS is what converts the URL to IP address. All right. So a DNS tunneling attack is basically an attack vector designed to provide attackers with persistent access, often by tunneling malwares into DNS queries. All right. So your DNS queries are basically interrogation of the system asking, I want to go to google.com. What's the IP address? I want to do this. What's the IP address? So inside that communication method, an attacker can embed a malware such that it can bypass even your firewalls. Now, the controls and mitigations around this is to automatically block malware in DNS queries. I mean, the queries are standard structure. So if you are inspecting your DNS queries, if you see a DNS query that doesn't follow your standard structure, then you should block it. You should have a deny list of data exfiltration destinations. And one of the beautiful things for me, I mean, it's been a very valuable experience in my career, is where we do some form of threat hunting or investigative work after an incident. All right, trying to find out root cause and the likes. You find out that there are some well-known sites or destinations when it comes to data exfiltration. So when you see such URL or links within your premises or somebody is trying to go there, you know that something is wrong. All right. So you need to build controls around it. So have a deny list for well-known data exfiltration destinations. Carry out a real-time analysis of DNS queries for suspicious patterns that doesn't look okay. All right. Then another type of attack we're looking at here is URL poison. All right, also called URL interpretation. Now, attackers alter and fabricate URL addresses to gain access to personal or professional data, or manipulate a particular site. So when an attacker poisons a site, basically what he's doing is uh, it's it can now allow the victim to it will force the victim to share information that would have been shared with the original site, but now with the attacker. So it basically takes over that particular site. Then your DNS spoofing is a type of DNS attack also. It's different from tunneling. But okay, another thing I need to just point out here. When you hear the word spoofing, you hear the word masquerading, they are the same thing. So when you say you're spoofing a DNS, that means you're pretending to be a DNS. You're pretending to be the site that they called for. So remember I said our DNS is a domain name server, right? Converting a website's URL to an IP address. So imagine that you type in www.gtbank.com. Normally your DNS, if it hasn't if it hasn't been compromised, it will give you the actual address, IP address of GT Bank in Nigeria, right? And then you would gain the interface, you will log in. But where your DNS has been compromised, so the attacker is pretending to be the DNS. So when you do www.gt.com, it takes you to a fake site that has been designed with the template of GTB or any other bank in that question for that question, and then you feel comfortable and you put in your username, your password, and everything as if you're transacting. As you're logging in, they're also logging in. You get the token, they are using that token immediately, and then they are moving funds from your account. All right. So DNS spoofing is basically an attacker altering the DNS record and sending traffic to a fake website, just as I've explained. And the mitigation here is just to keep your server up to date, fix vulnerabilities, and continuously monitor that DNS server. Now, traffic analysis is also a type of attack. Basically, it's an interference attack technique that basically you're studying communication patterns between entities just to deduce or infer what kind of messages are being sent, especially when it comes to encrypted message. Now, when it comes to encrypted message, you need the key to decrypt it. But sometimes an attacker that is well skilled will be able to discern the kind of information that's been encrypted. You might not be able to see the actual information, but be able to discern the kind of information that's been encrypted, especially if the encryption is not end to end. Maybe it's just only the data packets that has been encrypted. All right. So it's very, very important to know that when you talk about data, traffic analysis, basically it's monitoring and studying of communication patterns to be able to discern what message is being sent across the network. Then it's actually using military intelligence and counterintelligence and computer security. We've talked about the different wars that are happening. We've talked about nation states actors, and we're saying that the wars in the power brokerage in the world right now is not just only military strength, but technology strength and cyber strength. The one who is able to do more damage to the other I mean, we heard about the U.S. Election. They talked about, I mean, Russia tampering with the election results and all of that. So it just tells you how far people are willing to go when it comes to showing their cyber security might, as it were. Now, the other things we have here are unauthorized access through the internet or web services. Now, a lot of us, especially those that have IT control background, might have reviewed APIs and the likes. You find out that, I mean, as I said, developers are human. Some of them are just lazy, so they hard code a lot of things. So you find out that many software packages, they have vulnerabilities. They have been poorly configured. I mean, making unauthorized access easy. Some of them are still using default accounts that are known for everybody. All right. So I mean, you want to ensure that default accounts are not enabled on your account. You want to ensure that to avoid these unauthorized access through internet or web services, a proper security assessment of your touch points to the external world, your APIs, your softwares, your applications in your DMZs on the public space are things that you continuously monitor and just watch out. All right. And I mean, you need to test them continuously for weaknesses so that you fix them as early as possible. Your patch management process will play a great part here. Then viruses and worms, they are one of the most common types of attacks you have. The difference is that for viruses, they append themselves to other programs and they are self-propagating. And I think when we're talking about piggybacking, I use a virus as an example of a logical piggybacking when a virus appends itself to a legitimate file that I needed to send them to, say, Folashade. Now, worms, on the other hand, they are a destructive program that basically they do not replicate by changing other programs. They run independently. They travel across networks. They exploit vulnerabilities. So they are very destructive. They destroy the data or they use up resources. A way you would know you have worm, okay, just think about worm. Like when you say your child has worm and you say you want to deworm, it will just happen that the child is eating but is not growing fat, is looking lean, is looking sickly, or his tummy is growing bloated. At some point when he goes to toilet, you now start seeing the worm coming out, and you need to say, it's getting towards, you need to deworm. Worm is good in the system, yes. It creates balance, it helps to do some things. But when they take over, they are very, very destructive. All right. So I mean, you get to know they just replicate themselves across your systems, engulfing your space, deleting files and all of that. And the one that is very, very difficult to identify are your spywares and malware. They are not destroying anything. It's like business as usual, but they are collecting information. They are they are taking things from you that you are not even aware of. Credit cards, your logon credentials and passwords, username, and all of that. So, I mean, spyware they are worse, but either way, your viruses, worms are things that you do not want to have in your system. That's why you need to, I mean, organizations to invest in what do you call it now? Anti-malware, antivirus solutions, and ensure that systems it's enforced on all systems and every system gets updates on a timely basis. Do we have any question?
None from me.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much then. Let's see. So hopefully we should be able to meet next week. And when next we meet, we will then continue from the internet threats and security, talk about what our roles are. We've talked about several types of attacks. We will still look at those attacks in different form, either network attacks, active attacks, passive attacks. We'll just look at it more. The idea is what you will find out. I always try to give heads up. What you find out is a lot of times you'll be as if you're repeating the same things because you've seen that we talked about denial of service, we talked about phishing, we talked about masquerading, we then came back and talked about spoofing, still the same as masquerading. But the idea of me going through this early now is you get introduced to these terminologies and you get comfortable hearing them, you get comfortable seeing them, and you get comfortable even interpreting them because you now know what they stand for, what they do. And from what you've also seen, we talk about the mitigations also. So when you see a question and you see the answers, you know that, okay, for the likes of cross-site scripting, you know that input validation is the issue. So if you can control the inputs, then you've actually snuffed out the fuel from that particular type of attack. All right. So that will be that for today. I want to say thank you to everyone who made time to be here. I hope you were able to get one or two things. And let's see. Hopefully, we should be able to get cover more grounds by next week.